Billionaire slaps black waitress in front of everyone, not knowing she is his long-lost sister. The crystal chandelier caught the light just right as Marcus Chin raised his hand. Not to toast. Not to wave. But to strike. The slap echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot, and every conversation died. The young waitress, Maya Rodriguez, 26, with her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn chin, stumbled backward, her tray clattering to the marble floor. She didn't cry. That's what stunned him most. She just looked at him with something that wasn't anger or fear, but recognition. Like she'd been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. Marcus Chen, the man who'd built empires from nothing, who'd never apologized for a single decision, felt something shift in his chest. A memory he'd buried 26 years ago was clawing its way back to the surface. Where are you watching from? I'd love to know who's sharing this journey with me today. Maya had been working at the Sterling Oak for 8 months. The restaurant sat in downtown Seattle like a crown jewel, all white tablecloths and hushed conversations about stock portfolios and summer homes in the Hamptons. She'd learned to make herself invisible there, the way her grandmother had taught her. Smile, be polite, remember their orders, and never, ever, let them see you're angry. Her grandmother Rosa had worked in houses like these her whole life, cleaning other people's messes, raising other people's children while her own daughter grew up with babysitters. Maya's mother had died when Maya was 3. Cancer, quick and merciless. All she had left were photographs and stories Rosa told on quiet Sunday mornings, stories that always seemed to have missing pieces, like a puzzle with holes in the middle. Marcus Chen came to the Sterling Oak every Tuesday evening. Same table by the window, overlooking the city lights. Same order, rare steak, no salt, sparkling water with lime. The other servers fought over who would take his table. He tipped well, never complained, and barely spoke beyond placing his order. Maya found him unsettling in a way she couldn't name. Something about his face made her stomach twist, not with fear exactly, but with a strange, pulling sensation, like déjà vu that wouldn't quite resolve itself. That Tuesday started like any other. Maya had covered a double shift because another server called in sick. Her feet ached in her sensible black flats, and she'd burned her hand earlier on a hot plate, leaving an angry red mark across her palm. When Marcus came in, the manager personally escorted him to his usual table. Maya was assigned his section by chance, a rotation she couldn't avoid. She approached with her practiced smile, notepad ready. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" He looked up from his phone, and for just a second, his expression flickered. She saw it, confusion, then something harder, like shutters slamming closed. "Sparkling water. Lime." His voice was clipped, dismissive. Maya took his order and returned to the kitchen, trying to shake off the strange feeling that crawled up her spine. Throughout the meal, she felt his eyes on her. Not the way some men looked at waitresses, not with interest or appreciation, but with something darker. Assessment. Calculation. When she brought his steak, he barely glanced at it before speaking. "Your name." Not a question. A demand. "Maya Rodriguez, sir." His jaw tightened. "Rodriguez. Spanish. My mother's family came from Mexico, yes." Something passed across his face then, quick as lightning. Anger. Pain. She couldn't read it. He cut into his steak with sharp, precise movements. Maya stepped back, confused and slightly unnerved. She had other tables to manage, but she found herself watching him from the corner of her eye, the way you watch storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Near the end of his meal, a phone call came through. Maya heard his voice rise, unusual for him. She was clearing plates from a nearby table when she heard her name. Her full name. Maya Rosa Rodriguez. He was reading something on his phone, his face drained of color. His hand was shaking. Actually shaking. She approached cautiously. "Sir, is everything?" He stood so abruptly his chair scraped backward. His eyes, when they met hers, were wild. Trapped. "You're 26. "Yes, sir." "Your mother's name was Elena." The room seemed to tilt. Maya's breath caught. How do you know that? And that's when he slapped her. Hard enough that her cheek bloomed with heat, hard enough that everyone in the restaurant turned to stare. She tasted blood where her teeth cut the inside of her mouth. The restaurant manager rushed over, already apologizing profusely to Marcus, already reaching to escort Maya away as if she were the problem. But Marcus wasn't looking at the manager. He was staring at Maya's face, at the red marks spreading across her brown skin, and something in him seemed to crack. His hand, the one that had struck her, hung in the air between them like an accusation. Elena had a daughter, he whispered, and the words came out broken. She had my daughter. Maya felt the floor drop away beneath her. Her grandmother's stories flooded back, the ones with holes in them, the ones that always stopped just before the important parts. The wealthy man her mother had worked for. The pregnancy that came as a surprise. The money that appeared in an envelope every month until Maya was 3, then stopped completely when her mother died. Rosa had never told her his name. Said it was better not to know, better to let sleeping dogs lie. You left us. Maya's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. She pressed them against her apron to hide it. She wrote you letters. My grandmother kept them. You never responded. Not once. Marcus's face had gone pale. I never received any letters. Elena, she left my employment. I was told she'd taken money to go away, to start fresh somewhere else. I sent support payments for 3 years through a lawyer, then they started coming back marked, return to sender. I thought. He stopped, his throat working. I thought she didn't want me involved. She died waiting for you to care. The words came out harsh, but Maya's eyes were dry. She'd cried all her tears for her mother years ago, in Rosa's arms, in the small apartment that always smelled like cilantro and regret. A woman dining nearby pulled out her phone, recording. The click of a camera shutter cut through the silence. The manager's face cycled through horror and calculation. This would be a scandal, but it might also be good publicity, depending on how it played out. Maya felt the weight of every eye in the restaurant, felt the story spinning away from her control into something that would live on the internet forever. Marcus seemed to realize it too. He reached for her, then stopped himself. I need to explain. Please. Not here. Let me. You think you can hit me and then buy me coffee? Maya's voice rose despite herself. You think money fixes this? You've had 26 years to find me. 26 years. I didn't know you existed. His voice cracked on the last word. The lawyer, he told me the payments were refused. That Elena wanted no contact. I thought I was respecting her wishes. What lawyer? Maya demanded. Marcus pulled up a contact on his phone with shaking fingers. Robert Stanton. His family attorney for 30 years. He handled everything. The arrangements, the payments, He stopped, and Maya watched understanding dawn on his face like a sunrise nobody wanted to see. Oh God. Robert knew Elena was pregnant. He was there when I told him I wanted to do right by the child. He promised to handle it discreetly. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. The camera phones kept recording. The manager hovering. And between them, a quarter-century of lies was beginning to unravel. Maya's shift ended in a blur. The manager sent her home with pay, damage control, not kindness, and Marcus followed her out into the rain-soaked Seattle streets. She should have told him to leave. She should have gotten on the bus and gone home to Rosa's apartment and pretended this night had never happened. But something held her rooted to the wet sidewalk, watching this powerful man who'd just struck her stand in the rain like he'd forgotten how weather worked. My grandmother raised me alone, Maya said finally. She cleaned houses 6 days a week until her arthritis got so bad she couldn't grip a mop. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in South Seattle. I slept on the couch until I was 16 and got a job, then we could afford a 2-bedroom. She never complained. Not once. But I'd hear her crying sometimes at night, talking to my mother's picture, asking why you never came. Marcus flinched like she'd slapped him back. I tried to find Elena. After the payments stopped, I hired investigators. They found her death certificate. Lung cancer. But there was no mention of a child in any of the records. I thought, if there had been a baby, someone would have contacted me. For support. For help. Someone stole from us. Maya's voice was flat. This lawyer of yours. He took your money and kept it. It appears so. Marcus pulled out his phone again, dialing with fingers that hadn't quite stopped shaking. The call went to voicemail. He tried again. Nothing. Robert's been my attorney since I started my first company. He's been to my home. Met my wife. Helped me with. He stopped abruptly. With what? Maya pressed. My wife couldn't have children. We tried for years. Eventually, we accepted it. But she never knew about Elena. About the possibility of. He looked at Maya properly for the first time, really looked at her. You have your mother's eyes. I should have seen it immediately. Maya felt a strange doubling sensation, like she was splitting into two people. The woman who wanted to forgive, and the woman who remembered every time Rosa had cried over unpaid bills. What do you want from me? Absolution. I want to know you. The words came out raw. I want to understand what I missed. I want, God, I don't even know. I slapped you. In front of everyone. I saw your name, your age, your mother's name on a background check I'd ordered for all restaurant staff after a theft last month, and I broke. I thought you were there to con me. To claim something that wasn't real. So you hit me. Yes. He didn't offer excuses. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to make this right. Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. How do you make 26 years right? How do you pay back every birthday Rosa worked double shifts so I could have a cake? Every Christmas we pretended we didn't want presents because we couldn't afford them? Every time I wondered if my father didn't want me because there was something wrong with me. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. Marcus's face crumbled. This billionaire who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions stood on a rainy Seattle street and cried. Not the polite tears of someone used to controlling their emotions, but harsh, ugly sobs that shook his shoulders. And Maya, despite everything, despite the burning mark still hot on her cheek, felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, just maybe, the first small crack in the wall she'd built around her heart. The next morning, Maya woke to 17 missed calls and a grandmother sitting at their small kitchen table with a shoebox full of letters. Rosa's face was ancient in the morning light, carved with grief and something that might have been relief. I saved everything, Rosa said quietly. Every letter your mother wrote him. Every envelope that came back unopened. I thought maybe someday you'd want to know the truth. She pushed the box across the table. But Maya, Mija, I need to tell you something. That lawyer, Robert Stanton, he came to see me once. After Elena died. He offered me money to disappear. To never contact Marcus Chen. He said Marcus had moved on, had a new life, and a baby he'd never wanted would only complicate things. Maya's hands froze over the box. You took it. I took enough for your mother's funeral. Rosa's voice broke. I was so angry at him. At Marcus. I thought he'd sent this man to pay me off. To erase you. So I took the funeral money and I told him to tell Marcus Chen that his daughter wanted nothing from him. That we'd manage on our own. Tears tracked down her weathered face. I was young and proud and so angry. I never imagined he didn't know you existed. The doorbell rang before Maya could respond. She opened it to find Marcus standing there with a woman Maya recognized from photos online, his wife, Catherine. Catherine Chen was elegant in a way that money couldn't entirely buy. There was genuine warmth in her eyes, even though Maya could see the shock there too. He told me everything, Catherine said without preamble. About Elena. About you. And about Robert. She glanced at Marcus, who looked like he hadn't slept. Robert Stanton has been our attorney for 30 years. We trusted him with everything. But this morning, when we confronted him at his office with evidence of the missing payments, he confessed. He'd been embezzling from Marcus's charitable foundation for years. Your mother's support payments were just the beginning. He thought if he could make Elena disappear, there'd be one less thread that might unravel his scheme. Marcus stepped forward. He's been arrested. The district attorney is building a case. But that doesn't. His voice cracked. That doesn't fix what I did to you. What I said. The scene I made. Maya looked between them, this wealthy couple standing in her grandmother's modest apartment with its second-hand furniture and faded curtains. Catherine was holding Marcus's hand so tightly her knuckles were white. Whatever she'd expected to find when Marcus told her about Elena, it clearly wasn't this woman supporting him, standing beside him in his shame. I need time, Maya said finally. I need to process this. All of it. Of course. Catherine reached into her purse and pulled out a card. This is my personal number. Not for anything legal or financial. Just if you want to talk. Woman to woman. I can't imagine what you're feeling, but I'd like to try to understand. If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. As they left, Marcus paused in the doorway. Your mother loved you more than anything. She wrote that in every letter. I read them all last night. The ones that came back unopened. She loved you, Maya. And if she were here, she'd be so proud of the woman you've become. 3 months passed before Maya agreed to dinner. Not at the Sterling Oak. She'd quit that job the day after the slap, unwilling to serve people who'd recorded her humiliation and turned it into viral content. Instead, Marcus invited her and Rosa to his home, a sprawling house overlooking Puget Sound that felt more like a museum than a place where people actually lived. Catherine greeted them at the door with genuine warmth, and Maya was surprised to find herself relaxing into the evening. They ate in the kitchen, not the formal dining room, Catherine's suggestion, and the conversation flowed easier than Maya had expected. Marcus asked about her childhood with a hunger that was almost painful to watch, absorbing every detail like a man dying of thirst. He showed them photos of his own childhood in San Francisco, the son of immigrants who'd worked in restaurants themselves. He'd built his fortune in tech, but his roots were as humble as hers. I need you to know, Marcus said as they cleared the dishes, a surprisingly domestic gesture that made him seem more human. I'm setting up a trust. For you. Not as payment or apology, but because it's what I should have been doing all along. Your education, your future, whatever you need. Maya started to protest, but Rosa's hand on her arm stopped her. Sometimes, Mija, you need to let people do what makes them sleep at night. This isn't about you forgiving him. It's about him trying to be the father he should have been. But it was Catherine's words, spoken quietly as they stood on the deck watching the sunset, that finally broke through Maya's defenses. I envied Elena, you know. When Marcus told me about her. Not because of any romance, that was over long before I met him, but because she had something I could never have. A child. His child. She turned to Maya with tears in her eyes. You're not a mistake or a burden. You're a gift that got lost in the mail. And if you'll let us, we'd like to help you find your way home. Maya visited every Sunday after that. She learned that Marcus had a dry sense of humor buried under his businessman exterior. That Catherine collected vintage cookbooks and was teaching her to make pasta from scratch. That family wasn't always blood, but sometimes it was both blood and choice, and you could choose to see past the hurt to what might grow in its place. Rosa watched her granddaughter slowly unbend, slowly open, and said a quiet prayer of thanks. The prayers weren't for Marcus or his money or the trust fund that would secure Maya's future. They were for Elena, wherever she was, finally seeing her daughter known and claimed and loved by the father who'd been kept from her by greed and circumstance. On Maya's 27th birthday, Marcus gave her the letters. All of them. Your mother's voice, he said simply. You should have it. Maya read them over the following weeks, and in her mother's words she found not anger at Marcus but hope. Hope that somehow, someday, he'd meet their daughter. That he'd see in her the best of both of them. That love, even interrupted, could find its way home. She called him not long after. Not Marcus. Not Mr. Chen. Just Dad, testing the word out, seeing how it felt in her mouth. And when his voice broke on the other end of the line, when he whispered, "My daughter," she knew that some stories don't have endings. They have new beginnings. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It means more than you know.